Welcome to the Art of Hitting channel. Today we're going to talk to you a little short video on explaining the bow and arrow effect, the metaphor used in softball to talk about hitting and explain the importance of loading, striding, rotating, and the complete follow through. We're looking at the loading where you're setting your stance. You start with a balanced athletic stance with your feet shoulder width apart and knees slightly bent. Your weight shifts, most of your weight on your back leg. Imagine drawing a back of bow. This action stores potential energy in your body. Then you coil your torso, rotate your torso slightly towards the back leg, creating tension in your core muscles, much like pulling back on a bowstring. Now, we're going to let a gentleman, a clip I got off the internet, explain with a couple of major league players. It's all the same principles. And then I'm going to go through a couple of guys prior to getting to that. So let's get on with that. Watch these players. They load on the back foot, they coil, and they release. Now let's listen to this gentleman give you a better explanation, and then we'll look at some real life examples.
Change your stance and load, and that's when you're going to start getting some changes. So let's talk about this load. All right. The first thing that Ronnie's going to do is shift forward slightly. Watch him shift forward onto his front side just a little bit. And we're going to notice that his back foot is not all the way in the ground. So he's starting 60-40 like this, and when it's time to move, he is then getting back into the back foot, right? It's going to replicate a step back. So if I were to step back for a moment, my back would be weightless, and then I'm into it, and that's part of the reason why it helps me. It helps me work into the ground without getting stuck and keeping my torso in a good position. That's why the step back helps so much. Now, Ronnie did the same thing this year by putting more weight on his front side, so by the time he came up and he was ready to lift his leg, he was mimicking a step back. Now, aside from the weight distribution part, Ronald's leg lift is slightly different this year. So pay attention to his front knee. He's going to pick up his leg under his center of mass. What this is going to help him do is keep his torso neutral. We don't want the torso dumping or rocking to any side. Most kids mess up when they lift their leg, because as soon as they lift their leg, they rock like this. They let the torso go over the legs. Now I'm outside of my frame, I'm leaning back, and I think that I'm loaded because my weight is back, but I'm really just tricking myself because all I can do is spin out of that position. All right, so now let's watch the front foot we were just talking about. Oop, a little too fast there. Our front knee, picking it up under the center of mass. Now notice how little the torso shifts. Notice that his shoulders are slightly down here. Right, let's go through it, slightly down as opposed to here. Right, now on this side he's on top of the hip. This side he is in the hip with maintaining the integrity of the middle. This is why on the right he did this. On this side Ronnie did that. I probably could have done a better job of picking up my leg under me, but you guys get the point. Okay. Now, as he starts to progress forward, what this is going to allow him to do, now that he is neutral, he is able to, his torso, his center of mass is able to move forward more freely, okay? When the torso is back, it cannot move forward more freely and it's going to be stuck back. So this is where the magic really starts to happen, the pullback. We are pulling back against our weight, guys. Our weight is our best friend. So if we can get our center of mass moving forward, we can pull back and get it. It's the bow and arrow concept. The reason why you can pull the strings back on a bow is because a bow is a stiff and rigid structure that gives the string something to pull on. Now, we understand the bow and arrow effect in the swing, and we know that we want to stretch it and release and everything, but if we were to pull back the bow, we just wouldn't pull back from one side. We take both sides and we separate, right? Ronald Acuna is doing the same thing here. So the bow in this instance is the middle of the body, and his center of mass is going to work forward while everything up top is going to pull and resist this forward. Now notice how much further his center of mass travels forward. So he's using his weight to pull back against it. That is why this guy's getting every ounce out of his body, is because he's using his weight. He's using the heaviest thing. What is the heaviest thing? It is our torso, guys. It's not our arms, it's not our legs. It's this big mass right here. We have to get this going forward so we can pull back against it so we get our bow and arrow effect. So in this instance, or in all instances, the bow is going to be the middle of the body. The strings, in a sense, are going to be the arms, or going to be the elbows, right? They're going to pretty much stay there, feel like they work back a tick, but the middle and the center of or the middle of the body is going to work forward so you can stretch against your front side. And now we're in what I call the hangman position. It almost looks like the front shoulder is going into his neck right here. It almost looks unnatural and uncomfortable. This is something you're going to see. It's very common with Ken Griffey. Big time power hitter, one of the greatest of all time. This stuff works not because these guys are special athletes, it's because they are abiding by the principles of hitting. They're getting to the max stretch spot and unloading from there, okay?
Having what the coach had said, the bow and arrow effect in softball hitting emphasizes the importance of the body mechanics to generate the maximum power that could be generated by each player. By loading the body like a bow, striding smoothly to maintain balance, and rotating the hips and torsos to release the stored energy, hitters can achieve that powerful, effective swing. So I hope this is informative to you. We try to keep it short. It's easy to digest, and we try to hit these things a couple of times because, basically all good hitters do similar things. Load the back leg. They'll stride forward. Don't dump all your weight. When you step forward with that front foot, you're light on it. You come around where your hips and your hands follow. It's you do that snap, and there's a lot of elements. I don't know who said it, but they said there's only a few principles and a lot of methods. These are principles. Remember, there's only a few principles and a lot of methods. These are principles. Have a good day. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Thank you. We run through this stuff kind of fast, but remember, I write it up pretty thoroughly in the notes. So just go back and relate to the notes in the write-up. Thank you. Hit subscribe.